You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. Welcome to the big show, my family and friends. We certainly appreciate it. You know, it's never official until you hear the opera lady sing. And then when you hear her sing, then you know the show is fully official. Turn that stuff off. Thank you, everyone. As always, we appreciate you guys tuning in to the Chris Voss Show. We have a new link we want to share out. We've been kind of excited by the Facebook groups have turned on a new feature where they have a chat in Messenger. And so everyone can chat that's in the group. And we've had a big, fairly good size, what is it, like 5,500 people that are in our Chris Voss Show podcast group on Facebook. And we've turned on the chat so that if you want to chat about the shows, the guests that are on the shows, the authors, the content they have in a live format, or you want to ask questions of me, or I don't know, maybe you just want to send me your Snapchat photos, you can do that in the, don't do that, people. Please don't do that. Jesus. You can do that. It will probably ban you if you do that. You can do that. There's a whole bunch of groups that we have as a Chris Voss Show. So what we've done is we've created a link that you can go directly to the group. You can sign up at chrisvossfacebook.com. See how easy we made that? chrisvossfacebook.com. You can't forget that, because if you do, check your doctor for Alzheimer's. As always, we ask you to refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives so that they can share in the Chris Voss glow. Remember, that's a trademark, so don't say that to anybody else. But the Chris Voss glow is a thing where we bring you the smartest people for 15 years, 4 shows a day, a weekday, 15 to 20 shows a week. We bring you the billionaires, the CEOs, the White House advisors, the Pulitzer Prize winners. All of the brilliant minds come on this show, and the stupid ones we don't allow on, of course. I don't know how I got on the show, but I snuck on one day, and I haven't left yet, so they can't lock the doors behind me. But for the show, your family, friends, and relatives, go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss. Subscribe to the big LinkedIn newsletter and the LinkedIn group of 130,000 people over there. And now, Chris Voss. Facebook.com. We have an amazing author on the show. I'm excited to have him. He's got a massive amount of experience, history, knowledge, and he's going to share with us in business. His newest book has just come out, November 1st, 2023. It's called Unmanaged: Master the Magic of Creating Empowered and Happy Organizations by Jack Skeels, and he'll be on the show telling us all about the great stuff he put into it and the research that went into it and all that amazing things. He is a former executive, 2-time Inc. 500 award-winning entrepreneur and think tank management scientist. In his new book, he lays out the blueprint for how to make agencies and many other types of organizations run better, faster, and happier. We can do it. Sounds like that line from $6 Million Man. We can make him better, faster. There you go. He draws on more than a decade of applied research with over 200 agencies and other high-performance organizations. He presents a compelling case that managing less can be the key to managing better. Well, I found that out when I got rid of all my employees. In his and in my business partners too, idiots. In his 6-part structure, the book takes leaders and managers through the origins of why we manage the way we do today, and how a new style of managing within which one can see the echoes of agile methods, boosts everything from project success rates to organizational productivity, profitability, and happiness. Welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Great to be here, Chris, and good to meet you. Thank you very much for having me on.
Pleasure to meet you as well. Congratulations on the new book. These are always fun to launch. Give us your .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the internet and track you down?
You can find me on LinkedIn, of course, Jack Skeels, and also agencyagile.com is my consultancy that we've been going for more than a dozen years now with, as you mentioned, a whole bunch of successful clients.
There you go. So give us a 30,000 overview. What's inside this book?
The book, I'll actually go back to the beginnings. The book came from the fact that, and I don't know if it sounds like you're a very smart guy, actually, as much as you soft sell that, right?
Don't push it. Yeah.
When I was a programmer way back when, I always felt like my managers were idiots and just got in the way. And there's a way that idea stuck with me. And as I became a manager and a leader and eventually worked at a think tank and the idea germinated even more. And in the last 15 years or so, sort of pulled together this idea that today we overmanage, that managers tend to get in the way of productivity probably more than they enhance productivity. And I got the book opens with a really interesting, true real world vignette where we took a team that was dying from overmanaging and basically kicked all the managers out. And the team succeeded tremendously. An amazing project, big project on fire when I took it over. And so since then, we've done it with a lot of organizations. But the book really will tell you sort of the why behind all of that. Why is it that we manage so poorly and overmanage and the like? And what can you do about it?
Is it because people are stupid? Oh, I just had to put that in there because they are. Some are. Some are.
Well, let me jump in. I want to go because, you can take what I'm saying as being very anti-managerial and Lord knows part of my brain goes there all the time.
How dare you, sir?
I think that every manager I've ever met is just trying to do a good job, right? Okay, and that's I always go back to the show, The Office, right? and Michael, but it's exactly that thing is that so many managers don't know what to do, but they want to be a manager, and that's the plot line for The Office, right? As Michael comes in and feels the need to be managerial to validate himself, he does something stupid, and then the eventually the organization spits him out, and the cliche ending is he's out in the parking lot trying to figure out what happened that day, right?
Yeah,
and so that's sort of I love that as a metaphor.
I think you make a good point. I mean, most people aren't trying to always be evil. I think some people are, but most people are just trying to, do the thing, and they don't have your book clearly, and they need to read your book so they can find out to be better managers. Does that sound about right?
Yeah. I think that was the summary you were hoping for, and I didn't give you. So okay, cool. Thank you. Appreciate it.
There you go. I set you up on that. So tell us a little bit about your background and history. What's your hero's journey? What's your journey through life?
I feel like I've always been sort of a pinball bouncing from thing to thing. I've always been a fairly, you only have smart people on here, so I can go ahead and own that here. And I succeeded at a lot of things, but I got fired from a lot of things. I got tried to be a plumber one time, got fired from that. I mean, I had a history of getting kicked out of jobs that I was overqualified for. And eventually I ended up with my MBA, and I was teaching at a university, working at a think tank and all that kind of thing. And that wasn't enough reality for me. And then I got back into the world of work, and I saw it all differently at that point. And that was the moment when I started saying, there's something wrong with the way we're managing. And this is probably 2005 or so. Just something wrong about this whole idea of managing. It feels like a stupid game that it's sort of like a red pill, blue pill thing, right? Out of the Matrix, where all of a sudden I felt like everything every manager said was extremely contrived, even me, right? And then just started detangling it. And that's sort of, I got to the point where I said, we got to stop doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had your aha moment, maybe. Is that a good description of it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go. And so in this book, is this your first book?
It is my first book. I have about 35 published articles and a bunch of other stuff, but nothing like writing a book at all. It was a real journey.
So why did you feel this was an important book to write? I know it kind of seems obvious from what we talked about. What was like, your motivation was like, people need to learn how to manage or unmanage, as you call it.
Yeah, I think really at the core of it, there are two things that I realized that only a book would help accomplish this thing. One is I couldn't work as many organizations as we worked with, and we continue to get great clients and help them change the way they manage. The impact was too small. And the real problem looks like people don't understand what managing is, And we have this thing is I become a manager and I just sort of mimic what all the other managers are doing, right? It's this sort of pack behavior, like, you're a dog, now do what all the other dogs do. And all the dogs follow this pattern that started like 100 years ago with factories and immigrants and lousy working conditions and all that kind of thing. And that's not what the world looks like anymore. And managing just hasn't evolved, and managers haven't evolved. So that was a real idea that people could understand, step back and see themselves and see what was happening. And we've got lots of vignettes in there because that helps people do that. But that's really the idea, is that if we can enlighten people into just maybe making that little red pill, blue pill choice or something like that, right?
Yeah. So what are some of the topics you talk about in the book are it has your origins in digital and marketing agencies, but this could be something that could be applied anywhere. One of the problems that I had with a lot of management people, and I think I fell into the same thing maybe when I was appointed manager when I was really, really young. And one of the things I put on my desk was that it was basically some sort of one of those, it was one of those meme sort of motivational things that they had in the 90s. Remember those?
Yeah.
It's like, some eagle and he's going, but it was basically, you have to earn your title. Your title isn't given. You have to earn your title every day. And I remember having that on my desk as CEO. It's still in storage somewhere. And it was to remind me that just because you got your title doesn't mean you're a manager. Because you're named a CEO doesn't mean you are a CEO. Doesn't mean you're a CEO. Doesn't mean you're a leader either. And you've got to earn that every day. You can't, people just don't, you can't just lord around going, I'm a manager now. And people are like, you're a fucktard and you always were, and you never going to have changed. You have to earn that, and you have to build it, and servant leadership, et cetera, et cetera. Basically you can get the title, but that doesn't mean you're doing it well. Well,
yeah. And I think you bring up a couple of great points. So one is, people usually don't get the title of manager because they're a good manager, right? They get the title of manager because they were good at something else, right?
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden now you're a manager and you don't know shit about being a manager. In fact, most of the things that got you to that moment, the reason you got the manager job is because they didn't want to lose you, because you were going to leave. You were going to leave if you didn't get some sort of promotion. Damn it. Yeah, exactly. Give them a title. And so now you've got this job and you know nothing about doing it. And everything you did to get to that spot is the exact opposite of what you want from a manager, right?
Yeah.
All that sort of, you fought your way to the top of the fucking hill. You proved that you were like way better than everybody else. And that's like exactly not what you want to do as a manager. And you made yourself prominent. And and that comes to the second problem, which is that at the end of the day, people get into the spot and feel like they've got to prove themselves. And I love what you're saying, that what you're saying about the ego is a little bit more like I need to earn it, but earning is different than proving, right? Proving is like, I'm going to go call meetings. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do all these managerial things. And by the way, most of them decrease productivity.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm managing now. We're all going to have Zoom meetings and meetings 24/7 because I must manage. And you're like, how the hell are we going to get anything done? All right, manage boy.
You got
but go at it, manage boy. Have fun with that. And, and really, I think really, a great manager is to support your team. And a lot of people don't realize that. They just think that I'm king for today or however long they leave me here, and I'm just going to lord about.
Well, and a lot of things, there are all these weird, when you study this and work with different, we coach managers as well. And one of the things you'll see is that this attitude of like, I'm better than everyone else, which was what happened before you got the manager job, right? That's how you got to be the person, right?
Yeah.
That essentially, if you listen to these managers, a lot of times they'll say, oh, half of my people are horrible.
Oh,
and
wow.
they don't realize that one is that's just a legacy from them having to say half the people were horrible.
Yeah.
But second is the job of the manager. That's the only thing they're put there for, is to elevate their people. And if they blame their people for their people not being elevated, they're just pointing at themselves, right?
Yeah. I mean, your people are a reflection of you. So if they suck, you suck as a leader and a manager, preferably a leader. So what are some tips that you give people in the book on how to unmanage and get to something that's more productive?
Yeah, I think there are a whole bunch of areas that I go into, like dozens of different examples of ways to do this and the like. I think one of the big things, though, we were just talking about the getting in the way of productivity is a big thing. In other words, a great manager knows when to not try to be a manager, right? In a sense, we do this exercise. It may be easier to explain this way. So when we kick off with a new client, we take their whole leadership team, and usually these organizations, 50 or 100 people, something like that. So we've got 20 people in this workshop for 2 days. And at the end of the first day, we go through this exercise and we say, if we send away parts of your organization for a day, we could send the leadership and managers away for a day. What happens to productivity?
Yeah.
Because if you send the team away, by the way, then there's no productivity, right?
Yeah.
So we send and everyone does this nervous laughter kind of thing. Well, the fun thing is, one of our clients in Brooklyn recently, they actually had a happy hour right after that, the end of the first day session, when we talked about that. And they had everyone come in and from their company, and they started asking all the team members, said, how was your day? And they're like, it was an amazingly productive day. So literally just removing the managers and leaders from the room, so to speak, boosted productivity in that organization.
We didn't have them bothering us and getting in the way, asking for TPS reports, damn it.
Exactly.
TPS.
And there's a truth in that, right? There's a truth that for all the good that managers try to do, they can be very clumsy at it, right?
Yeah. Get the hell out of your people's way, man. You're there to support them. Servant leadership. One thing that's in your book is you preach the gospel that hints of Buddhism, urging managers and leaders that can be by being more aware and less reactive. Tell us a little bit about what that is. Do I have to get a big fat half naked guy Buddha like sitting in my lobby or something people can worship? Burn incense.
If there's a book by Hermann Hesse called Siddhartha, which is the story of young Buddha, and I was struck by something in there, so I put it in the book. And at one moment, Siddhartha, the young Buddha, is trying to get a job from someone, right? And he hasn't been trained in college or anything like that. He's just been experiencing life, and the business person says, well, what can you do? This is like an Indian trader guy and all that kind of thing, and Siddhartha says, well, I can wait, I can fast, and I can think. And the guy's
Thinking,
like, what the hell's that? What are you going to do for my business? And of course, they proceed to show how those things work. But the idea that I can wait, okay, I can pause. I don't need to act, right? Okay. I can fast. I don't need to be fed by my need for managerial satisfaction or proof of my ego or something like that. And then I can think. And that's really those three things, as a manager, being contemplative and saying, it isn't about me being a manager. It's about them being the productive core of my organization. And what is it? What is the thing that needs to happen here? Okay. And it's maybe me doing nothing. Maybe it's me asking a question. But the last thing is probably me intervening, right? Okay. Or having, like you said, having a meeting, or, asking people to do a new report or an extra status report or something like that. It's that act of actually treating them as this powerful engine. And what is it? If you think of like tuning up your car, right? Back when people did that, when you're listening to the engine and trying to see what is the engine telling you about what it needs, right?
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the word ego in what you were saying. Do you think that that's a big thing that a lot of people, they get that headspace of, their ego is like, I'm a manager now. I have the title and I'm going to lord it around. Or, other aspects of ego. Do you find that maybe is something that gets in people's way or managers' way when they're trying to lead?
Yeah, you're on a really good track here. So
I've seen a few companies.
Yeah. So I will say something just as a frame. If you're in the manager leader business because of the power thrill, you're not going to like my book.
Damn it.
You really won't. I think, and that you've struck on a reality, and it'd be stupid to deny it. And that is that, a lot of the people who climb to the top of organizations are not all that, humble or, humanistic or whatever we want to say, certainly not servant leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And the organization then looks like them, right? In other words, they set the culture for it and everything like that. So that I think there's a big challenge inside of organizations, is that the people who are drawn to that situation, being the CEO of a 500 or 5,000 or 50,000 person company, are driven by some of that stuff that you're talking about. Sometimes, what's the percentage? I don't know, 50%, something like that.
Yeah.
The book is for the other group. Okay. The other group where it's a leader who feels like, I cherish our people. I cherish the opportunity to have them here, that sort of posture. And that creates a culture like that inside the organization as well. Right. One of my favorite CEOs, I hosted a panel at a big conference, and he ended the session beautifully. He said, we were talking about talent. We ended with talking about the people you hire. And he said, nobody's good enough to be an asshole.
I like that. I need to. I think I have a few girlfriends that would send me that for a coffee mug. But that's not my problem. I think that's true. I like that. It keeps people grounded. You mentioned a good thing about culture. A lot of people don't think about culture. When I started my companies, I had prepared pretty well. I'd read a lot of Forbes and Harvard Business Review things on running companies, and I had planned to run very large companies. And so I prepared. And so I knew that day one, I had to start laying a framework for culture. And also what I wanted was a learning organization. I forget the name of the book. I should have it because I always reference it around here. We're
talking about Theory V by...
the Fifth Element. The Fifth Element.
It says Theory V on the cover, and it's Peter. I forget his name. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll pull it up here. I don't think it's The Fifth Element. I think that's the movie. I was getting too confused. It's a great movie.
I used to call it Theory 5. That's why I know I'm on the same brainwave as you on that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got the big V on the front. But I wanted to build a learning organization and have a culture of learning and open-mindedness. One of the motivators was my friend who I started one of our first successful companies with, that really went multi-million-dollar. He was working at this company where all they did was worry about getting blamed for stuff all day long. And so everyone would document like every little thing. And it was like a high school documenting every little thing. Like, I didn't go to the bathroom for more than 5 minutes today. And everyone was like trying to cover their ass so they didn't get blamed for whatever shit went wrong. They actually did have, I'm not even kidding you, they did have swipe cards for the bathrooms, and they would measure the time you were in the bathroom. You're putting swipe cards in your bathroom. Maybe there's something wrong with your hiring process or your management style or whatever. But it was insane. These people were literally, most of their productivity every day was documenting how something wasn't their fault or trying to cover their ass so they didn't get blamed. Like, it was like 80% of the productivity was that.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead if you're gonna.
No, that was it.
So that is so interesting, and there's a thing I touch on in the book. There's a great book out there called, is it called 8,000 Weeks? I think it's, or something like that. It's the idea that we only have 8,000 weeks in our life, right? Which is kind of a scary way to think of it. Oh. But one of the things they talk about, the idea of time and work and all that kind of thing. And in the history of management, there's a moment when people used to get paid long ago, 100 years ago, used to get paid piece rates. In other words, you produce 200 widgets, you get, whatever, 20 cents or something like that. Who knows what it was back then. And at some point, the manufacturers went to paying people for the full day, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you're paying piece rate and people don't produce a lot, you're not paying them a lot. So that's cool. Okay. But giving people a salary, a daily wage, all of a sudden changed the management, the owner perspective, which is, I'm paying for their whole day. They better be working their whole day. And this was essentially the origin of the idea of greedy capitalist. How dare you take a break during my day? And it was a huge thing that happened in about 1925 or 1930. And it's terrifying to me to hear that story that you just said, because that's that same thing. How much of my day are you spending peeing? Okay. That's like insanely stupid management practice.
Yeah. Well, at 55, there's a lot of that going on, even during sleep. So the book was called, so that I have this right for people, it's called The Fifth Discipline, The Art and Practice of the Learning Organization by Peter Senge. So yeah, it's got the big V on the front. That's kind of what throws
Yeah, it messed me up for years too. Yeah.
I can never remember what it's called. And then I always the Fifth Element or whatever. And people are like, that's the movie, you idiot. But it's a great movie. So there's that. But a lot of people don't think about laying that foundation, or when managers come in.
I'm going to jump in real quick and tell you something about Peter Senge's book, because it's a great book, by the way. I believe he made a mistake, because it was one of the books that inspired me in the 90s as well. I believe he made a mistake, because in the book he talks about it's a learning organization, but the learning is the manager's learning. Okay? And it's a really subtle flaw in there, but the idea, he talks about systems modeling and a bunch of other cool stuff, right? But his whole focus is we want to work with the managers, right? And if you step back and look at this idea of learning organization, it's really that the whole organization is learning. If we look at things like Toyota Production System and these real management revolutions that happened, it was about engaging everyone in the organization, not just the managers. And I think that's just the tiny little flaw in his stuff. He had a lot of things right, though, but it was an interesting thing. And because you got to wonder, why didn't this take off when he did it? And it didn't, right? Instead of re-engineering the corporation, came out and cleared out all the middle managers in the world. So.
Yeah, a lot of the people don't realize too, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to take a look too when you come into a management or leadership position, whether you're in mid-level or any place. You've got to reassess where the culture is, or maybe the culture was on the guy who was leaving, and decide on where you're taking your new culture. You have to be conscious and mental and present about it. You have to say, what culture do I want to cultivate under me? Does it need to be different? Does it need to improve or change? Or how does this fit, my personality, and what is the culture that I want to have? Because as we mentioned before, that culture is going to become reflective of you, whether you like it or not, whether you intend to or not. It's going to become reflective of you. And if you're a dummy, then there you go. You just set your tone.
Well,
what do you think?
One of my favorite topics, by the way, culture. So one of my clients, we just did the book kickoff, and one of my clients did a video testimonial. He said, Jack taught me that the culture is not what you say it is. It's actually how you behave when the shit hits the fan. Which I thought was great. I never even said that, but he actually came up with that and so here's the real challenge, right? A lot of leaders put the idea of culture in. And we had one client, a really big client. They had these posters all over the walls. And one of the posters, I actually made a Shepherd Ferry propaganda poster to make fun of it. That it said, "We are empowered." Okay. I did the one, with the guy with, and a woman, the 1950s industrial propaganda poster to make fun of it. The problem is that a lot of those sort of cultural value things are platitudes, right? I'll give you an example, right? So I take a room of people, 20 people at that company, and they're in a meeting, and they walk out, and I ask them, were you all empowered? And everyone looks at me like I'm stupid or something, right? Okay. Yeah. Instead, let me give you a cultural value that is a lot easier to measure and people to follow, which is don't be a jerk. Or actually,
don't be an asshole.
Don't be a dick. Don't be an asshole, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
right.
Like that earlier reference.
Yeah. So I survey those same 20 people coming out of the meeting and say, was anybody a dick in this meeting? It's really easy to answer, right? But that's cultural values need to be measurable, and they need to flow through, right? In other words, if I say one of our values is don't be a dick, and things, the shit hits the fan and someone starts becoming a dick. Now everyone can go, you're being a dick. And that's not what we do, right? If you have that, we are all empowered, no one can, even when the shit hits fan, we're all empowered, but we're still all screwed, right?
Yeah. Well, how do you define being a dick? Is there like is there a definition there? Or I'm kind of
I think it's one of those things, you know it when you see it a little bit, or when you experience it.
I see mine in the mirror every morning when I walk in. I'm not talking about my dick. I'm just talking about me being a dick. So clean up your thoughts.
I almost jumped on that one. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks, man. I don't want to turn it into an OnlyFans show. So we have enough weird shit going on with this show. So, people are sending me their Snapchat photos evidently from the intro.
If you're going to get some Snapchat photos, that was the prompt right there.
Yeah. It's never the people you want sending you the Snapchat photos is the problem, but that's another story. So yeah, setting the culture straight, coming into management. What are some other things that, if I'm out there listening and I'm a manager who says, maybe I need to prove things, or maybe you're coming up on that first day of management. What's some good ways to lay a foundation and hit the ground running the right way before you muck it all up?
Look, I think that one of the biggest problems, I go into this in some detail in the book, is we are incredibly biased human beings. Okay. We're just wired that way.
That seems so wrong. No, I'm just kidding. I'm trying to be biased.
You're gonna bait me on that one. Now, and by the way, all the stuff around, I'm not going to rip on DEI, but all the stuff around DEI, and there's a great article in the Wall Street Journal by a couple of the top DEI researchers who said, you're getting this wrong. You can't shame people for being biased, because people are biased. It's not a solvable problem.
It's a biological thing.
Yeah, exactly. We're attracted to people we're attracted to. We're unattracted to the unattracted, etc. The thing you need to do as a manager is realize that you have those biases and build processes that avoid them. And basically, anytime you are assessing or choosing, okay, you're getting it wrong. Okay. Cool study by Deloitte and a university, where they found that the most significant factor in performance appraisals from managers of workers, if you will, the most significant factor was how much they were alike each other. Okay. And we both play paddle tennis or something like that, right? That would tend to create a more positive performance review than whether they had actually done a good job or not. And the quality of the person's work was the third factor, by the way. I forget what the second one was. So managers' ability to appraise and assess is ridiculously biased. And in fact, it creates this spiral. You got to realize, as a manager, you're going to create a spiral, because you're going to choose the people that you think will do well. And then because they get opportunities to try, they learn how to do better. And so it's a self-reinforcing loop. And of course, those you don't choose will always seem like they could never succeed, because they were never given a chance to succeed, right? So one of the keys here is, can I put a mechanism in place where I just give everyone a chance? And this comes to one of the key ideas of a great manager, which is we all need to take turns. Okay. It can't be, I'm only going to let people do it who I'm certain of. It's the people I'm uncertain of who have the most opportunity to grow, and I need to give them a shot at it. And we had this guy on I was running a big software development team, and everyone was slammed. And there was this one guy, young guy there, almost an intern. He'd won a yo-yo championship the year before. I mean, that was like his claim to fame in life. And we had this thing that needed to get done. And I said, why don't we have him do it? And everyone laughed. I mean, they literally laughed, like, you're kidding, right? I said, no, you guys weren't skilled at one point. So, and at the end of the day, they supported him, of course, like helping him like their little brother kind of thing. But he killed it and got it done, and no one thought he could have. So opportunity is probably more important than your judgment. Giving people opportunity. There's my punchline. Sorry it took so long to get to it.
It was great. This is important too, because you've got to develop your people. You've got to, this is part of delegation, and you've got to be able to delegate and get your people's skills developed. And you can't just think of yourself as like say you're like a platoon sergeant or something. You can't run around and, like, if your team can't shoot their guns, you can't run around and do all the gunning for them.
Exactly.
You got to teach them to shoot their guns, and you're going to have people that are always going to be on a curve. I remember one time I had this conversation with somebody who's being a real fucking idiot as a manager. I put that subtly. And they literally thought you could build a team of 100% of rock stars.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, no, you can't, because they were persecuting the one or two people at the bottom of the curve that just couldn't be the rock stars. And I'm like, you can't do it. And, I tried breaking the rule for most of my early business years, breaking the 80-20 rule or 95-5 rule, I think is sometimes how I see it in sales. But the 80-20 rule, 20% of your earners are going to earn 80% of your business. They're going to be the kick-ass people. They're just, there's something special about those folks. And then, you're going to kind of have a fall off curve. And yeah, I mean, I kind of like the idea that I adopted back in the 90s. I think it was Microsoft that gave me the idea to weed out the lowest 10%. Which is
General Electric, actually. It was
General Electric?
Yeah, it was Jack Welch.
Jack Welch. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
And I like that idea. I mean, you don't have to necessarily weed out and fire the lowest 10%. Maybe you should look at them and say, how are we failing in some way where we can improve these folks or help them, or, maybe there's some, you always ask yourself, is it us first?
Sure.
Because it usually is. But there's some people, maybe they're just not a right fit for this job. They need to go back to McDonald's or, woodworking or steel mills or something, whatever the thing is, man. Maybe this just isn't their thing. And, but yeah, you can't build a team of the things, but you do have to give people a chance to develop. You do have to train. You do have to do whatever. But yeah, this idiot was like trying to somehow get rid of all the weak players and somehow think that he could assemble a team of top people. And I'm just like, there's no way to do that, because the top people always enjoy being the top people. And if they have to fight over everything, they're going to leave and go someplace where they're going to be the top people. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot to that. And I do want to acknowledge that sometimes you've got someone who's not a fit. Okay. And that's usually more of the situation, that they're not a fit than they're actually not competent, right? They're just not fit for your style, your organization style, that kind of thing. If you have, half of your people, as we've seen with some of our clients, half of our people are no good, then I'm like, no, I think there's a person I want to start with, and their first name is the same as yours, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
You really need to look at if that, and I agree with you on that team of superstars. If you want to build a team of superstars, go ahead and grow them. Okay.
Grow them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Very important word there. So lots of great thoughts and insights that we have in the book. Give us the final pitch out on the book to people and where they can find you on the internet, maybe on board with your agency and consulting, et cetera, et cetera.
Hey, well, so look, I want to make people better managers, and part of that is making organizations work a lot better. And we see some great results. The book talks about all that kind of stuff, and that's what we do every day at Agency Agile and the like. Would love for you to take a read of the book. You can find it on amzn.to. It's Unmanaged, Mastering the Magic of Creating Empowered and Happy Organizations. And we're at agencyagile.com. You can find me on LinkedIn as well, and happy to, if you want to chat on any of these topics, please reach out to me as well. I appreciate it.
There you go. This has been a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on the show, Jack.
Thanks, Chris. Great chatting with you.
There you go. Order up the folks wherever fine books are sold. Unmanaged. Master the magic. Master the magic of creating magic. I always think of that meme. Unmanaged. Master the magic of creating empowered and happy organizations. Available November 1st, 2023. Yeah, maybe give it to Christmas is coming up. Maybe
great holiday gift for your favorite manager.
Just don't mark the sender on it. There you go. Just leave it on a desk and see if,
Exactly.
see if somebody gets the hint. Wink, wink. So, hey, somebody just handed me the book. Anyway, thanks for tuning in to my audience. We certainly appreciate you. Check out our new link where you can interact with the show on Facebook, if that's your kind of place to be. There's a chat over there as well. Go to chrisvossfacebook.com. You can also go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, the big 130,000 LinkedIn group, the big LinkedIn newsletter. Chris Voss, one at the tickety talking youtube.com. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys next time. And that should have us.